joining us from somewhere else, that's where we're at, shooting this live. And as Rosie said, if your friends ever want to chime in, it's a few seconds delay, but it's on YouTube and they can catch it. And then I think you can catch it 24 hours later. If you missed parts of this session, or you needed to take a break or go back to your office, you can certainly catch up where you left off. So today is Wednesday, and I know it's hard on a holiday weekend. You're like, what day of the week is it? And typically in the middle of the week, you kind of need something to just go, okay, I got through the Monday, Tuesday, now we're at the Wednesday hump, okay, get me through the rest of the week. So when I originally set up these Wednesday classes, I thought, oh, it's going to be great because, you can take a break. It's just very calming. It's very relaxing to sit and draw and paint during your lunch hour. At least it's lunch here. If you're on the East Coast, I don't know, you might be winding down for the day. But we had a holiday, so it feels like it's really Tuesday when it's really Wednesday. But I'm glad you're here today, and hopefully you're not working too hard that you couldn't take a break and do this with us. This lesson is for all ages, all abilities, really. I have done this Asian landscape topic and subject through a couple of different ages and abilities, and it never fails to amaze me how well you do it. What I'm holding in my hand is actually from one of my calendars. I'll put it right close to the camera. And what I love about this picture, it's glossy, sorry about that, so it's picking up a little glare. But what I love about it is representational of a Japanese landscape. It is a Japanese landscape. It is currently in a collection at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And oh my gosh, I think this really speaks volumes to springtime, to the beginning of summer. If you know anything about cherry blossoms, they like to, that was the beginning of their new fiscal year in Japan, the beginning of their new school year. So whenever those blossoms start to come out, and in these trees, they're not quite there, but that's when they go have a big festival, a big picnic. They'd sit out under that huge canopy of trees, and you can see one over there that I've got showing right there. And they would just start to come out and enjoy each other's company. And while I know this has been a very difficult time for us, we haven't been getting out as much, but a lot of us are opening back up. And being outside and outdoors and taking a walk in the park, I highly recommend it. It's good for all of us. So a landscape seemed fitting for today. You should have in your little arsenal that you're going to need today, you're going to need a paintbrush. So I find one that's kind of a wash. This one, it's not a big, it doesn't have a big head on it, but even if yours has a really big head on it, that's fine too. We're not doing a lot of detail painting today, so it doesn't really matter what size brush, but you probably don't want a tiny one like this, or you'll just be working after we're done today, and that's okay. And then I have what I call unconventional things to play with, right? So I've got some Crayola washable markers, and these are going to be my watercolors today. I like traveling with washable markers because they fit right into my suitcase, and by adding water to them, they become a watercolor. So they don't take up too much space. I only have to take a couple of them. And if you do have a set of watercolors today, of course, you could use those for your background. I'm also going to be drawing in a permanent marker, a Sharpie today. That's going to act like my India ink. What is India ink? Well, India ink usually comes in a little bottle like this, and the Asians love using waterproof ink to do a lot of their drawing. So this is my drawing, my sample drawing, and I used India ink on it today, but we're going to use our permanent marker. I typically don't use a permanent marker, just so you know, because it's not acid-free. So if you're going to make a fine art that's going to last a lifetime, don't use this, because it will, over 5 to 10 years from now, turn pink. And you'll think, what's wrong with my drawing? Because I can't see it anymore. It's just, it doesn't stay permanent like you think it stays permanent. And it's eaten through your paper. So this was done with India ink. You could also, if you don't have a Sharpie, a permanent marker, or India ink, you could use the black right out of your tray. That'll work too. And you could come back later and really put some more pizzazz to it. So we're going to draw first. I'm going to draw in my Sharpie because you want me to see it. You should be drawing in a pencil, not because I want you to erase. I don't want you to spend time erasing, but you want to draw lightly so that if you do have something that you really just don't want, let's say I really want my tree here and not over here, then you haven't spent a lot of time with a permanent that you can't get rid of. Draw lightly. So if you have a pencil, draw very lightly. Okay, so this is what we're doing. Yes? Trees. I love trees. And in a lot of places in the world, like Canada, the Northeast, they're starting to bloom. And I love that we can be inspired by trees all year long, whether they have blooms or not have blooms. So I think that's what's fun. Okay, I have a bigger sheet of paper for today. If all you have is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, that's going to be just fine too. It's going to be fun. Okay, landscapes. This is called portrait orientation. You know, on your printer that says, do you want to print the paper out, portrait or landscape? So landscape means it's sideways, like this. Portrait means my face could fit on it. We're going to draw a portrait today, even though it's a landscape. So I didn't want you to get confused by that. So what I'm going to do is draw myself first a horizon line. And a horizon line, if you were with me when we did the beach, the horizon line is where the sky meets the ground. Or in that case, the sky met the beach or the water. So what we're going to do is have a horizon line. Again, please draw lightly. I don't want you drawing as dark as me, because I'm doing it in permanent. So if I mess up, I'm in real big trouble. But that's okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is block in where these nice, big, beautiful trees are. And I think what's wonderful about them in this original piece is that there are some that are large in the foreground, and then there's some that are really small in the middle ground and teeny tiny in the background. So let's block in the big ones first. Okay, I'm going to put this here so I can look at something here. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom of the page, and I'm just going to make a big trunk or a big line, curved line. So that's going to be the tree that's closest to me. So pretend like you're approaching the park, you're going to go see your friends for the first time, or you're taking a stroll with your dog, and this is the tree that you see right in front of you. Now, I like to think of trees like Ys. So, I mean, as in the letter Y. So I'm going to make this a Y tree. Do you see my Y? I have two arms or two limbs coming off of this big trunk. Of course, I could have some more. I could have some more if I wanted. Now, this tree that's in the center of my original picture here, I'm going to make it smaller than this one. So pretend like I'm walking along. Now I'm going to come into view this tree. It's not going to be as big. The trunk is going to be a little bit skinnier. And guess what? I get to this point, I'm going to make a Y. So I'm going to make a Y here, like that. Oh, I see it peeking behind this one. So you all should be drawing at this point. You're just following what I'm doing, or maybe your trees look like V's or Z's. I don't know, quite small. And that's okay, because a big cherry tree is expansive. And when it blooms, it feels like a big canopy. So here I go. I'm going to actually put parallel lines to my Y. Parallel meaning the limb is going in the same direction. And I think I'm going to add a few more little Y's coming off the big Y. So it makes another little V. Yeah? If I'm going too fast, I hope I'm not going too fast. I'll try to slow down a little bit. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to add another little let's call it another tree in the very distance, like the more like the middle ground. So there's going to be one right here, and he's not quite as tall because he's further away. I have Big Daddy tree, Mama tree, and Baby tree. And I'm not going to sing the Baby Shark song because I don't know it, and then it would stick in my head if I did know it all day, and I wouldn't get through this lesson. So here we go. So we got this one, and it's going to have a little Y as well. And you could have some little new sprigs coming off of it. Because it's springtime. In northern Japan, these are just now starting to bloom. And I hear our friends up in Philadelphia and New York, these are blooming. So they start like end of March in DC, they're there in April, and it just keeps going. And they make these just beautiful trees. Okay, so if you can't get enough of cherry trees, we're actually going to do some cherry trees in perspective in one of my paint nights on a Thursday night. So you can come back and do that in acrylic. Okay, so we got the three, the mama, the dad, the mom, and the baby little tree. Now let's draw some architecture. And when I say architecture, it means structure. It means something man-made, something that man-made. And your lines, while you could make them straight, you could get out a ruler, but we don't need a ruler. The Japanese weren't doing a ruler. There's no reason for us to do that. So what I'm going to do is draw this little hut or a pavilion, call it a pagoda. It's just a little nice respite for shade. So let's do that. So I'm going to draw it. I'm going to draw it behind this tree. Here's the side of the building. Like a box. Everybody can do a box. There's a box back behind the tree. I didn't get my ruler out. Now my box is going to have a triangle on top. Like a little pagoda. I know it looks really elementary at this point, but it's a work in progress, and it's going to look beautiful when we're done. Okay, now I'm going to add a little interest to this pagoda, and I'm going to put a pole out front, like it's got a little porch or something, so it's got a little pole that's supporting the roof, the overhang of the roof. And let's add another one, because I think a single by itself in the park is kind of, so that one might be taken and I got to go to the next one. So let's put another one. This time, guess what? Your square is going to be shorter. Because it's further away. So don't make it the same size. Here I am, I'm marching along. This is further away. This one's closer. So your square should be shorter. And now my roof, my triangle, is going to be fuller. So I'm going to put a triangle that is shorter than the other one. And I could see a little bit of it peeking out back here. Okay, so I've got two little pagodas in my landscape, or two little resting spots, little ramadas. But what is a park or a summer out, a spring fling out if you don't have a swing? And I think that's why I love this photograph, because there is a little swing in the picture. I don't know if you noticed that at the beginning. So you can see there's just peeking into the picture is a swing. So it's in the foreground. So I think we should add that over here. And how are we going to do that? Not a problem. Let's do the canopy first. So the canopy is coming in about 2/3 of the way up the canvas. So here comes my canopy. You can make it look like a little mushed marshmallow. Okay, so here it is. And it's got just a little flap that goes back on it for some interest. So that's the top of the swing. Gotta have shade. I think because they were very light skinned, they don't have as much pigment in their skin. So definitely they always were putting more shade. All right, now let's draw what I call the supports. So this is the support to the swing, like a pole, a wooden pole. And here is the seat to the swing. It's a big cushion. At least more fun to swing on than those metal ones. And it has a cute little basket bottom. And if you look at it closely, this has a pattern on it. It's got like a quilted pattern, a cross hatching. So you could add that on now so you know what you're looking at. And this part in the real photograph has almost like hay or straw bed underneath the cushion. Are you seeing it? I think you're seeing it now. It's like a nice, cute little swing. I mean, who wouldn't want to go to this park? It just looks so restful and beautiful. Okay, the only thing that we haven't added are all of the trees in the background. And so those are all the same type of tree, but they're so far away that we really can't see them. So I am going to actually put in a little bit of a lake first. Disregard my line right here, right? Because I'm drawing in Sharpie, so don't worry about this piece. So I'm going to have a little bit of a lake behind my tree, or a pond of some sort. And then I'm going to have some more grass behind my pagoda on the other side of the lake. And then I'm going to have those trees that are just budding popping up behind my grass. There's my Ys. Easy peasy, right? Those are just little Ys back there. If you're drawing for the first time, this is a really good landscape for you because it's all about shapes. We did squares, triangles, the letter Y. Very easy to do. Okay, and so here we go. Let's finish our grassy knoll, hill or landscape back there and add some more Ys. If you want to add little dots to some of your trees are starting to bloom, you could do that too. Okay. Now, if you're drawing this in pencil, you could at this time decide, hey, I'm going to use a permanent marker to trace the lines that I love. Don't trace that line that went across my trunk, but you could go over your pencil lines and say, yes, I love this line, or no, I don't love that line. So that's what you could do at this point if you wanted to. The rest of us who drew it with a marker already, who felt confident enough, and aren't you glad you didn't even erase anything? I'm so glad. Oh wait, let's add one more tree. I think we need another little tree coming out behind this canopy. So I'm just going to have a little Y peeking out back there. I just feel like I don't have enough going on. I'm going to wait before I add all of the other things in the foreground, with all the little limbs and twigs and buds coming out. Okay, so I can at this point take my black. So you could use the black that's in your tray. If you have one of these very simple 8-pan Crayola or Krang or whatever brand you have, it doesn't turn out as black as India ink. And it's not permanent. Okay, so just want you to know, none of this is permanent. So that means whatever I paint black here with this, if I get some of this color into this, or vice versa, I could get some black seeping into my sky. So just know that going forward, that you're going to have to be very careful what you paint over here. India ink, on the other hand, and this is fun. So even after today, if you decide to go, this bottle is probably like about $8, but it lasts forever because you barely use any of it. You hardly use any of it, and it's waterproof. That means when I paint this, it's not going to affect what's on here. And I think that's why the Asians loved it so much. A lot of their manuscripts, all their calligraphy was written with this ink, and it doesn't fade, doesn't go away. I typically, when I pour it out, just pour a little bit in a tiny container like this. You'll love it. It'll be your best friend. And honestly, I put way too much in this little container, and it's messy because it'll stain your hands for a few days. Well, not a few, maybe just like overnight, because it is waterproof. And it's just like a Sharpie. It's not going to go away for a while. So I'm just going to show you the difference. I'll put a little bit on my drawing, but then I'm going to switch, I think, back to using a lot more of the watercolor. Although, what am I doing? I'm painting vertically, which means water is going to have gravity and drip. So you need to be aware of that too. Don't paint on the vertical like me if you don't want your painting to be dripping like that. So this is that tree, and do you see how dark that India ink is? And I barely put any on my brush, so I just want you to be familiar with it because you might really love this stuff. I do. I use it in mixed media, calligraphy. I put it in my calligraphy pens. See how dark that is? You can't get that with the watercolors, because hence the word watercolor. It's mostly water. You would have to not put much water on this pan. So I'm going to do now one with watercolor just to show you the difference. So I'm going to do the medium tree with what's in here. Look, it even looks brown. It's like it's not enough pigment because the water's sucking the pigment out. And those are just good things to know, so that when you're doing your artwork, that you want to try to make something look a little more black, or you need to do some writing on the page, put a poem with it, then you know exactly what to use. A lot of my classes are not just about doing the work with me. I like to tell you more about history and art and types of mediums that you can use. Okay, so that's that. That's the one done with watercolor. This one's done with the India ink. I'm going to go ahead and finish the one with the India ink so it just looks consistent. Just to be consistent. You could have filled it in with your Sharpie. Honestly, you could just take the Sharpie and fill in your trees if you don't have any paint. And if you have the washable markers, you could be filling it in with that if you want. Or you can wait till the end and fill it in. Okay, so I'm just filling that India ink in. That wasn't on the list, so don't feel bad about that. I just wanted to give you a hint. I didn't want everybody to have to run out and find things for these classes. These are meant to just be enjoyment. And if you end up wanting to take your art a little bit further, then you have some know-how and what to go get later. Okay, because I think we've got at least 30, 40 people watching today, so I know some of you have probably done this kind of work before, and some might be your first time. Welcome. It's fun. Okay, so I have this one done in the watercolor, and I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and fill in this tree here. I'm not dipping it in the water much because I want it to be more saturated. I want it to be darker, and it's harder to do darker with a lot of water, right? And I don't want it to drip down because gravity is just going to pull it. and I'm going to have a big mess. My last Wednesday class I did with you all, I was sitting down to do the fish because that was all in watercolor, and they were swimming all around. But today I thought I would stand. Okay, so I've got the 3 trees that we talked about. This is so fun. How's everybody doing? Any questions at this point? We're kind of into half the way. You all look like you're busy. The ones I can see, you look very busy. I do have these little signs up here too, and Rosie's going to talk about those later and give you some links. But if you feel so compelled and you want to offer a tip for me for my time and my materials and all the things that I do to put these together, then I'm so grateful for that. I've been offering these free classes through the city. They've been gracious enough to host me. So I'm glad I could do this for you. While my normal classes that I teach in person, we can't meet, obviously, because of the pandemic, but I'm glad to be able to bring these to you. So it's been nice. So anyway, that's my Venmo and my Bravo, and then I have the PayPal account and the Square account. You can find me. Just type Deborah Gowley Art. You'll find me. Okay, so any questions? Trying to kind of let everybody get up to speed. Any questions from anybody? Yeah. Okay, I think it's wonderful that you all are working so hard. That's also like I've got this panoramic view going on. I can see in the camera. I didn't plan it that way, but it looks like we have multiple trees going on with a hint of a peacock down here. I'll tell you about the peacock later. That's what we're doing Saturday, so I hope you could tune in on Saturday. Okay, so this landscape definitely has a lot more detail with the ink, with the Indie ink or the black ink or the Sharpie that you're going to use. So I'm going to suggest at this point that we actually draw in those details with the Sharpie. Now that you've traced the things that you love, like the big bold things, the objects, let's use the Sharpie now to draw the rest of the things because we're not going to be able to draw over it later until the entire thing is dry. Then you could come back and add some more what I call doodles and dabs and dots and maybe little people and ducks in the pond and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and add some more details with our pen, or you can draw with Indie ink if you have it. Okay, so I know with this little hut, it's got a little, let me put it up close to you again. From my calendar, my inspiration. Again, this is at the New York Metropolitan Museum. Typically, you don't copy art, like I'm not going to be selling this to me. You'd have to get the guy's permission or the museum's permission to be using any of that. We're using it for teaching tools today. That's all we're doing here. Okay, so what we're going to do is add the grass hut. So I'm putting tiny little strokes along the edge of our little hut, like this. Yes? You can barely see him, and I'll pick it up and get it closer to you in just a second here, as soon as my trees dry a little bit more. And I think what I'd like to do too is put a window, or what I call an opening into my pagoda. So if you entered here, if you walked in there, you would see this big opening inside. So I've got a big window. And because it's dark in there, I'm going to put lines close together. Some of my drawing students know about this. Something's going to look darker just by the way I'm shading that with my hatch lines. It's going to look like it's in shadow just from drawing lines close together. You don't have to paint it all in black. I think it's better when you use some of your hatch techniques or your dot techniques. So that's what I'm doing here. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to add a color there. I'll probably put some yellow or orange later in there, but at least it's darker. It's dark in there. All right. I can even make it look like it's really dark at the ceiling by going the opposite direction. So now I've got a hatch. And now it's time for me to bring it just a tad closer so that you can see that. Okay, you can see my straight lines, and then under the eaves right here, I went in the opposite direction. Okay. All right, let's try that again. Whoops. I'm going to lose that one. Okay. All right, now let's do it on the smaller hut, the smaller pagoda. So this one is going to be a little shorter. It's going to look further down the road here. And let's do the same thing. So I'm going to add some lines inside. Make sure your lines actually touch. So if I'm drawing a vertical line, make sure it touches the horizontal line below. There's just something about when they don't quite touch. I think that's coming from my architecture days, when I was drafting with a pen, and when you stop short, it makes people think, well, maybe I was going to take a left turn and didn't finish it, or there's like a little rabbit hole in there, or maybe I ran out of ink. I'm not really sure. But be intentional if that's what happens. There's times when you don't finish a line because you want it to be an implied line, and that's very different. But in this case, we want it to go all the way down. Okay, I'm going to do some in the opposite direction near the ceiling inside my pagoda. And I'm going to put some hatch marks for little soldiers along the edge. I'm kind of curving them because it's a curved little grass root along there. And I think I'm going to have a couple of vertical lines at the base of my pagoda. Maybe it's some weeds growing up, although I don't think they would allow that in this park. They're very tidy. But there's just something, maybe it's gotten old and water has decayed some of the bamboo down here. So I'm going to put a few texture lines down there. We already added a little bit of texture to our swing. So we got that going. And let's see, what else could we add? Maybe we need to add some growth at the bottom of these trees. So if you've got your pen, maybe I'm going to have some little grass lines at the bottom of my tree. I love that. It just makes them look like the tree's not floating anymore. It looks grounded. This one I can't see the bottom of the tree. It's off the page. Yeah. And maybe I've got a few rogue weeds, rabbit holes in other places. Also, I might have, with my India E or my pen, I might have some shadow from what's going on up here. So just a little bit of lines. They weren't very, the Asian art that you look at from this century is not going to look very three-dimensional or have a lot of shade and shadow. That's kind of not where they were at with their work yet. But I'm going to add a few more little sprigs of grass here and a little black shadow. I typically, too, do not use black for shadows, if some of you know me. It's not what I do. I'm also going to add a little bit of black up here. You could wait till you've painted this, and then you could add it with your black watercolor, just to put a little top on to the top of that pagoda, where all the sticks are coming together, and it would be darker up there. Okay, how about the swing itself? So there's probably a little shadow under the swing with the pole that's supporting the top of it. And I wonder what the canopy's actually made of. You know, is it a piece of fabric probably? Silk? I don't think so, but maybe. I don't know. But let's give it some texture. Believe it or not, even though we're using pen and watercolor today, this would still be a drawing. This would go in the drawing category if you were to enter this into a show, because we're mostly drawing with the pen or the ink, and we're going to be adding just a hair of color. So this would be a beautiful drawing. I could probably pass in the painting section too. And I'm going to put just a few lines, crosshair lines, just to make it look like a piece of fabric floating up there. The Asians, and particularly the Japanese, are into clouds in a lot of their art, if you study a lot of their art. And so these cherry trees to them look like clouds because of the breadth of the blooms when they come out. And so it doesn't surprise me that some of their elaborate fabrics would be billowy and feel cushiony, almost like you're floating in a cloud. So I like doing that. All right, now remember we were talking about these little guys in the far, far back, way. Okay, we need to still give them something back there. So I told you could wait and put the dots on later, or you could continue to add all your little lights. I'm going to add mine now. Maybe I've got a few more things back here. A few more teeny tiny trees in the way back with little lights. It's just like maybe a whole orchard of cherry trees or orchard of some type of fruit tree. And they're just on these little rows back here. Maybe I've got some lines along the pond edge. I'm moving around the canvas at this point, just trying to get everybody up to speed. Some of you were tracing your pencil line, so I'm trying not to go too quickly with using whatever you have. And we're going to put those little lines around the pond, but you can do this afterwards, after the paint's dry. Okay. And maybe I want a few marks now in that pretty tree. Let's put some bark on that tree. He's dry now, so I can put some lines on him. And if I want, I could add a couple of people in the park too, right? So I could have a little gentleman here with his cap on. In this little triangular outfit. You don't have to be detailed in a landscape. It's far away. No one is going to see all the detail that's going on. Probably why I like doing landscapes a lot more. I don't want to see the pond going through her outfit. So I got two people that are very crudely drawn. They're like almost like stick figures with little outfits on. I kind of made more of those triangular outfits, like a kimono, something just simple, a simple little shape. Okay, I'm going to bring this forward so you can see it a little bit better. And I'll let Miss Rosie talk for a second while everybody's getting caught up. So there's my drawing. She's going to tell you a little bit about how you can sign up for the next class and how, if you wanted to give me a little tip, you can. And you can ask me some questions in the chat if you want to do that.
Hi everyone, again, thank you for being here. Thanks for joining. I did link those tips, the tip links down below in the chat box, so you can go ahead and use those links to access any of Deborah's website, Bravo, Venmo, and Square. I will be attaching the registration link We are putting together some more classes for future dates in June through July as well. We'll get more information on those after today's class. And then I will start to add those on our registration site to get those all up and get everyone registered and get all of those Zoom invitations out to you. We just want to thank Deborah for being here and for continuing these classes. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate you all. I'm very fortunate to live in a city that supports the arts, and I can't thank them enough. I've been here 17 years, and I had no idea when I moved here how amazing some of the just the staff and the city council and our mayor, they're all in support of the arts and it being an extension of what a beautiful place that we live in, where we can expound upon that and share this love and joy of art. And so we're looking forward to our new city center and a bunch of art fun things going on there too. And Parks and Recs is pretty cool too. My kids have all participated in it. I feel like I'm doing an ad for Goodyear, but I do love my town. Okay, so everybody should be kind of feeling good about your art, your drawing at this point. I know we haven't added color yet, and I know this is going to get exciting, but this is a very simple drawing. It really is, and you could leave it like this, but who wants to leave it like this? Nobody wants to leave it like this. We want to add a little color to it. Well, I discovered this really cool, I don't know, just maybe I stumbled upon it, who knows, but you probably have a bunch of markers laying around your house, maybe you don't, but if the grandkids left them, or maybe you keep them to when they come, but you probably feel like they're all dried out and you want to throw them away. Don't throw them out. We're going to reactivate them. So let's say that actually, I did go out and get a new set for this class. But I have a whole bin of, they look really dried out. And when I go do a workshop, I take the whole bin and people just go, oh, it's not working. Oh my gosh, it's not working. And I said, well, wait till see what we do with it. What I do is I have a cup of water nearby. If your water got real contaminated from India ink, you probably want to throw it out right now and maybe not put your markers in the India ink water. But if you have another cup that's not contaminated, like I'm just going to take my spray bottle. I always keep a spray bottle too handy for spraying my watercolor palette and my acrylics. I use my spray bottle for just about everything. I paint murals too on big walls, and so I need a big one, especially when it's hot. I spray myself. So there's just water in there. It's not. It looks blue, but it's just stained because of my hands doing different things, inks and all things. Okay, so I have a clean thing of water. I have let's pretend it's dried out. And I'm going to stick my paintbrush or my marker in the water. This is so fun. If you don't have these, that's okay because you're going to want to go get one. But you can use your watercolor. And I'm going to show you both, right? So I stuck the red. I just happened to pick up the red one. Okay, so what I could do is just draw a little red with it in the water. It has to be washable. If it's permanent, if it just says Crayola or another brand that's not washable, it probably isn't going to do what we want it to do. So it's already bleeding onto my paper just from the water. But guess what? It's going to bleed more when I do that. Ah, lovely. So that's how I'm getting that pink sky. Because, well, you could have used pink. This set actually has a pink. So I could just mark right on it, or I could dip it in the water. And it's a little bit fatter line, right? Because it's breaking the ink down, is what it's doing. And then I can paint it. And I can mix it with the red. This is probably a really good technique for those of you who are scared to watercolor just yet. which brings me to, I should remind everybody, I am teaching a watercolor class, a full week class this week. There is a fee involved with that one, but it's going to be fun because we really get into using some of the professional grade watercolors and some of the really cool brushes like this one that has an angle on the end, and you're like, what the heck is that for? Well, we'll get into that in this class. Just a little more tips and hints if you enjoy this kind of work. But for now, look how easy that was. I'm just making a really cool sky with my markers. Now, I could go to this right now. Let's see what the difference is. Okay, I'm going to put my brush, or I could squirt my palette, which most people don't know they could just do that. I like that. I just squirt the whole thing and now it's all wet. Then I'll have to just keep contaminating my brush with the water down there. And then I can just look at that. Now, I'm going over that brown, so what's it doing? It's picking up brown because this tree was not India ink. So if you don't want brown in your sky, or it looks brown, it was really black off of here, don't go over the tree, just go right up to the tree. I'll come back over that brown. The reason I can come back over the brown with some orange or yellow or red, because brown is all the colors. It's not a color on a color wheel. It's made from all the other colors. You can wait for it to dry. You could also take a tissue and you could dab at it. And I just lifted the color. So if you got brown there real quick while it's still wet, you could dab at it and get it to release. Like I have drips because I'm working vertically. I kind of like the drips in this particular instance, but if I didn't want that, I just dab at it and I can get rid of the drips. So watercolor is not an easy medium, but it sure is fun because water just has a mind of its own and it can make some really cool dry lines and drips. And it's really fun. Okay, now typically as you go down the sky, we're painting the sky right now if you hadn't thought about that. The closer I get to that horizon line, the lighter it's going to get. So look at our Japanese friends, the way they did theirs. Try to get rid of it. You can see that it's lighter here than it is up here. So you can choose whatever color sky you want, but when you get to the horizon, it should be very subtle and very washed out. How do you wash something out? The more water and less pigment, the more washed out it will look. Or take that paper towel if you got too dark and just start blotting it. So I've got a couple of markers here. I'm just going to use both, my markers and my watercolors. I'm going to put a little red in there. Put some pink in there. Did you notice too in your watercolor set there's no white? You can't make pink unless you get a tube of watercolor white. And white is opaque, so it's more pigment and less water. Okay, so I'm just going to smudge all that in there. Don't wait too long with the markers before you add the water. Especially with the new ones. The new ones have a lot more pigment than those dried out ones. That's why I like the dried out ones though. But I wanted to show you with the new one how dark it was before I added the water. Okay, so I'm going to keep on putting that beautiful pink sky because my trees have not bloomed yet. So I want to have a hint of what's going to be. After this is all dry, I can add all those little dibbles and dots if you haven't already. You might have did that already while I was talking. So, okay, so how are we doing? We should have a sky going. I'm going to go to about right here I'm not going to go halfway. There's something about cutting your painting in half, and I don't like doing that. So I'm going to go about right here to where it transitions to hardly anything, just a light wash with my water. So I'm going to put a little bit more yellow, orange. It's mixing with the brown. I kind of like that. It's kind of still a cold spring day. Makes me feel good being here in Arizona. Okay, see, I put a lot of red there. Now I got to take my little napkin and just dab at it and get rid of that. It's kind of instinctive. You just want it. You're just like, oh no, it's too much, and you'll just grab something. Don't grab your shirt or your eating napkin that you were using, but. And I have a little white. I kind of like with watercolor. If you're going to use a little, or you want some white, remember I told you there's no white in the palette, just leave white, right? So that, and it looks like I've got some cloud or something moving in, because you can't paint white on there. Well, you could use watered down acrylic paint after it's all dry. But. So that's the trick with having any white. You'll notice in most of the Japanese paintings, there is no white. Even those little dots that they have here, they would have had to plan that first. Okay, they would have had to plan that they were going to leave some little dots white and not fill them in. And they would have been using crushed stone. So, like, they would have a little. Here's a stone, fancy stone. Mine's a pretty fancy one. And they strike the stone or the flower or the rock against something else, and then add water, and that's how you get the color to paint with. And what did they paint with? They painted with mostly goat's hair, right? It's really soft, feels like a makeup brush. Really nice. So it's fun when you see like the tools. And then of course this is a piece of bamboo. You could fill it with your India ink, the black ink, and you can really get some fine lines with it. So it's fun to see what tools they used. Okay, here we go. I'm going to just kind of leave this kind of white here. But remember I told you I was just going to make it wash? Well, that means I'm just going to stick my brush in my dirty water. And I'm just washing it. I don't like to leave anything white unless I purposely wanted it white. So it's dripping down the page. That's okay. I'm making my way down. A little bit up there. Look, it's dripping right over that India ink, and there's nothing happening with the India ink. Because remember, it's waterproof. That's what I love. I can go right over it, and it doesn't care. Pretty nice. Okay, now let's go to the green part. So I could use green out of here, or I could use a green out of these. Let's do a little bit of both. So I got a green hill over here. And I'm going to add some water to it. And I'm going to put some green here. And how about some blue? What if I mix some blue and green? Or some yellow in there, because green is from blue and yellow. I might put some blue. Oh, I got a big drip right here. I'm going to have to make a happy accident out of that. I don't think I can clean that up. Oh, well, I dipped my napkin in the water, and it still was wet enough. Okay. I'm using a bigger wash brush at this point because this is a really big area to cover. I don't even mind that these new markers are giving me some lines on the paper because I think it adds to the grass. If you had an old marker, it wouldn't be good. a lot more pigment there. Oh, gonna go right over their little guy's feet. There we go. So that's my nice grassy mole. Oh, I can say mole. Knoll. I'm tongue twisted today. I'm dehydrated. It's only over 100 here. Okay, and then I have this cute little pond here. I could make it really dark. I could do that. Is water really blue? Not really, and that's pretty intense. So I'm going to dirty up my water a little bit with a little purple. Maybe a little green. Yeah. And maybe okay, so we got all the land stuff done. Oh, I'm missing a little green spot right here. Oh, that's true. Wow, that's really fun. Now all we have left is the architecture, right? The things that are man-made. So we did the sky and the ground that always comes first because it was made first. Our creator made all that first, and then we came and added all these other beautiful structures. And so let's do that now that we have that. So I'm going to take some orange. You can use your watercolors, your color pencils, whatever you have, pastels. You don't have to be painting with us today. In any of these projects that we do, you just use what you have. It's picking up a little of the brown. I love that. Dirtying up my roof. I love that. You have less control when you hold the brush further down. If I want to really do some details, I'm going to go really close to the metal part of the brush and do some because I have less control. I have less movement in my arm. But out here, when I'm just watercoloring, I'm way out here just splashing water onto the canvas. And I love that. I'm not a detail person anyway, so. I add a little yellow to it because it's a straw. Ruth? They say when you're quiet, it's hard to talk and paint at the same time because that means I'm living in my left and right brain. And they say that if I get quiet and I'm not talking, that means I'm truly in my right brain, which is a good thing. So if you don't talk when you paint, that's a good thing. I'm having to talk to you today because I'm telling you how to do it. But if I lose my train of thought, that means I'm crossing back and forth. Or I'm just nervous. I don't know which one. Actually, you all have made it easy for me to do this. I'm not too nervous. Okay, so inside of the huts, I want to go darker. It already is going to feel darker because I did those hatches. So even if I put orange, it's the same orange as on the roof, it's going to feel a little darker. But I want to add a little bit of purple. Why purple? One of those colors that's on the opposite side of the wheel. It's not exactly opposite. Purple is opposite yellow. But it gives me a sense of it's darker in there. In those little huts. Yay! Okay, so in the original from this, I wish I knew that I'll have to post the name later of this painting. I was going through their millions of pictures at the Met and I have not found this one yet in the collection online, but I will find it. So we're going to put the swing on. So I like this pop of orange down here. I think I'm going to use my marker for that because it's brighter, less muddier. And when things are closer to you, they're brighter and more bold. So I'm going to use my new marker for that nice, beautiful swing set. And then I think I'm going to use the blue right out of my watercolor pen. I'm just going to give him a nice little cushion, like a cloud, because it looks like a cloud, like you're floating on a cloud, and they like clouds there. I like clouds, and I'm not even Asian. At least I don't think I am. I've never done that genealogy. I don't think I have Asian. I have Indian, but I'm not. Okay, here we go. Yes, we got that. And then maybe this part, oh, I don't know. What do I want that to be? Really cool, yellowy green. Maybe the canopy's yellowy green. Wow, it's really coming together. Loving that. Okay, the only thing I really have left to do, like I said, is draw all the little buds coming out. And if we plan this right, this should be drying or dry already. So with the few minutes that we have left, I'm going to just start drawing little twigs. And if you have a question at this point, please feel free to start letting me know what your questions are. And in about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes, we're going to actually show each other's artwork, because there's a lot of you out there, and I'd love to see what you're doing. So let's go ahead and draw these things and chime in if you have something you want to tell me. We're going to be doing a peacock on Saturday, and the peacock can be done in acrylic paint. This one's done in acrylic. Very fun. If you just have pastels and some watercolor, let's do it like that. Whatever you have, 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, Mountain Standard Time. If you are familiar with the Wildlife Zoo here on the west side of Phoenix, my friend Jennifer took this beautiful picture, and that's what I'm using as my inspiration. So I have permission to use this picture. If you're going to be joining us the month of June, because that May is already gone, that's our last one in May. If you're going to join us in June, I would love to hear your thoughts, but I thought it would be fun for us to look at Monet and his beautiful Venice, and we could do that in watercolor as well. That would be really fun and make it impressionistic style. And I thought it would be fun too for us to have a paint night and actually do those cherry blossoms. And so that's what you're seeing right here on the screen. And we'll do that in acrylic paint. That would be a Thursday night. So you can let me know if you'd be interested. You can email me. You can send me a little message on Facebook. Anything. You can find me. You can find me. All right. I'm just adding little dots and twigs. And I think we'll just let everybody in now, and I get to see your beautiful work. This is so fun, you all. A Wednesday in the middle of the week, learning a new skill, or just having fun creating and thinking about places far away and what they do for leisure.